Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. Vanessa Baldwin, my amazing co host, and I, Heather Nielsen, are really grateful and very excited to welcome back Robin Gaylard for a second interview. Robin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Heather. Thanks, Vanessa. It's wonderful to see your faces, hear your voices, and to be here.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of actually knowing Robin in real life person, in real life, and it's just, and Heather too. But really just so beautiful to know you and your heart, like we were saying before, and the kind of person that you are. You're super intuitive, super deep person, just super aligned, and just the kind of person that I like to be involved with. And I love it. And I love that you're just like really just finding your way in this kind of crazy world and just doing it so beautifully. And I love it all. So, so glad to have you here. And yeah, Robin, I know you were living here on Long Island with me, and then you recently had a big move, right? And tell us about that experience and how that's felt in your body, how that whole experience was, how you're adjusting, what's it like comparatively to living on Long Island in a more kind of like more suburban, more congested area. I think you're living in a more rural place, if I'm understanding correctly. Tell me what that's like and how that's been for you guys.
Sure. Okay. Great question. Let's see. I'll unpack it in some layers
Yeah.
because it is very layered. And overall, it's been like it was a very long how's this going to go transition through
Yeah.
2025, and hard pressed to find anybody who had an easy 2025. So we can all go there with our, really like the things that brought us to this place of who are you though? And is this a pivot point for you to step into that? And that was sort of how I see the move. So, all in all, it's been a really positive experience. It's hard to start over at any age or stage, right? Being the new person, doing something for the first time, stepping into something totally new. It's hard. And it was hard for me for, leaving family, friends, and the life I had built in New York. But it was a real beautiful sometimes God or creator, I say God, he calls you to trust. And,
Mm.
exercising faith, I think, is a really important practice, especially as time and space are shifting and time feels different and space and time are coming together in our lives, whether we know it or not. We can't hold on and white knuckle our way through something. So if something arises, whether you like it or not, it's not good or bad,
Hmm.
it just is. And so that was really the practice. So, long story short, 5 years ago, I left a difficult situation and my health wasn't okay and I was not okay. And, our family was in chaos and sadly, things needed to shift. And that is an experience that I've been on, a journey that I've been on through chaos into order and in and out, right? Because I don't think chaos is fixed and I don't think order is fixed. But, we go in the pendulum swings and we move through choppy waters and then we sail calm waters and then we move through choppy waters and then we sail calm waters. So, there was a moment around February of last year where it was like, it's time to move on. The sea is going to whip up a little because you need these calmer shores on the other side. And, I am a single mother and it is what it is. It's, there are dreams and visions and aspects of my life that I wish were smoother and easier. But, I have to cultivate patience and trust that, like, even though not everybody can see what goes on behind the curtain, when you're a mother and you're raising a child, whether you're married or not, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on yourself to presence yourself and to raise the child or the children according to your values. And so there's a level of consciousness, patience, and practice that goes along with that. And what we had to go through to get to this point today, were some really hard, difficult things like a lot of people go through. So naturally, when I was renting and my landlord sold the house, was like, we're selling the house. I thought, oh my gosh, how's this going to go? Am I going to be just a mom who needs to live in someone's basement for the rest of my life? And is that what it is? So it was really a reckoning. And it actually became a very beautiful process, partly because of the way that I handled it. And so I kind of had to say, like, oh, boo-hoo, oh no, and then sort of instead say, and obviously, so also like to all of the family members and friends that I have in my life, like we don't move through things alone. You know, people give you good ideas and they listen to you and they support you, and then you can make your next choices. So I am very supported and I'm super grateful for that. And this was an example of that. So basically, long story short, it was like, oh no, how's this going to go? Oh, but look, I can buy a house. I'm approved for a mortgage. You know, all these things that I wasn't focusing on because I was so in the minute to minute, day to day of some more challenging aspects of my life, my personal life, and just the circumstances. And then it became like, okay, maybe you need to think outside the box. Look at this from like a broader perspective, because I think as Vanessa mentioned, you know, I was also living in New York on Long Island, and the real estate market is pretty crazy there. But also for me, it really, I was fighting against a different value system in terms of who I am and parenting and just the crowdedness of where it is, and also feeling congested in terms of not being able to get very many places easily. And, you know, how do I move my life forward? There are a lot of obstacles. So long story short, there was this house in Western Massachusetts that I bought. And, you know, that was a whole process. So by the end of the summer, we moved, and now geographically I'm closer to family and we can get to different states, and like in 15 minutes we're in Vermont, and we're driving here or there and everywhere, but it feels quick and it's not a big deal. And there's so many more people and family that I can see. And for my son, he needed a different experience. And it's hard to say that when there are other people involved in his life too, who have different perspectives or ways of, you know, viewing things. So it really is hard when you kind of see and know something and then choose to like have faith in something. But what I wanted to say about the process too is that sometimes when you go through big changes, you're faced with, and for me as a mother, like how you grieve, how you process something, where you're at emotionally and behaviorally. And I was also able to really witness that in my son, and sort of how much he's grown and how beautifully he kind of got an experience to grieve something, and how I had to kind of, even if it was uncomfortable for me to manage his emotions through it, just to be there for it and to hear how he was processing the last 5 years of our lives, and how he felt about home and the change and his circumstances. So it was really beautiful. And one of the things that I feel has really aligned with my values is that we are just more in touch with nature. So for example, there's a brook in the backyard. We can easily walk and access places, but we can hike a mountain in our town. My son is taking snowboarding lessons on a mountain that's 30 minutes away. So we can do winter better. You know, we can be outside in the winter. The kids go to school, you know, 9 inches of snow, pack your snow pants, there's recess. You know, it's much more like nature outside. He's gone on, like, he's come home with like rain boots. Like, we went in the brook and got soil samples today. Like, the community is much more aligned with a lot of these circadian principles that I know you talk about, that I practice, that we all do professionally, in terms of, you know, alignment and lifestyle and values and health are determined through habits and choices, and like, you know, how we live our lives in the second to second, the minute to minute, the inhale and the exhale of our days. So I feel like, oh, okay, this is really beautiful that we have this like home and this space, this outdoor space that we can access and utilize, and the school culture is more aligned with that. And just also agriculturally, so I can, you know, don't really need to go to those bigger grocery stores anymore. There are farm stands everywhere. There's a farm across the street from our house, and I can buy local meat, local dairy, local vegetables, seasonal. Everything is so aligned. And again, you know, we joke like, you know, you don't want to overdo it, but to have a natural rhythm of like not overtly seeking it out, like, this is good for me, this is bad for me, so I need to do this and I need to order this and find this and choose this, but it's just more organic. So again, the alignment with values and how I want to live my life, and the circadian principles and how I've been able to weave them in, has been really beautiful. And I think just one more thing to add, I think for me too, and I was thinking of like the imagery of how to summarize like what I've been through, and I kind of feel like it's like shaking up a snow globe. And, a snow globe, when you shake it, looks beautiful, but it's chaos. And chaos doesn't have to be bad. And so there's that stallion story that I love to read too. Of, I don't know if you know the story about how, like, this farmer, and whatever, he loses a horse, and the neighbors say, like, oh, that's terrible, I feel so bad for you, and he goes, I don't know, is it terrible? And then the
Yes, I do
horse
know that
comes
story.
back with many more horses, and they go, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, you have all these horses, that's wonderful, is it wonderful? I don't know, is it good, is it bad? And then the son's riding on the horse and breaks his leg, and oh, your poor son, I feel so bad, that's terrible, is it terrible? I don't know, is it good, is it bad? And then he doesn't get picked for war because his leg is broken. And then the neighbors go, okay, we know he's going to say, I don't know, is it good, is it bad? But I think that's an important story because, people's lives are really whipped up right now. And if you can kind of look at your whipped up or chaos circumstances and remember what a snow globe looks like when you shake it, there's wisdom, there's beauty, and there's also divine order in that. And if you can stay out of the way as the snow settles, and then every flake, which made something seem so chaotic, can land in exactly the spot it's supposed to land. And I think we're moving through, like, quickness and change
Mm.
and so much information coming at us. And it's really important to remember that if you let something outside of you decide something's okay or not okay, you're missing the point. And I think in our field too, there's a lot of that going on, which we can get into. I'll put the period on this sentence soon, but I think it's important to remember that if your faith is strong, that the energy we need to connect to comes from a divine source. And the amount of charge or enthusiasm or voltage that we can plug into around that is determined by what we're aligned with. And that, like, distance doesn't really matter. It's really what are you plugged into? And so I think if you go through a hard time, like for me with this move, I don't think it was good or bad. And I think my lesson was to separate from having an opinion about it at all, and to trust that sometimes we're pushed in a new direction and that we don't know better. But if we don't experience it, then we won't learn from it, and we won't be able to step into the next version of ourselves that we're being called
Mm.
to be. So
Mm.
anyway,
I
that's my
just love
very
how
long
you are
answer.
able to articulate all of this so beautifully in the metaphors, and just I can just feel your confidence and your trusting in yourself and right in God's wisdom and what is ahead for you. And because the thing is that, like you're saying, when we frame it as good or bad, or you know what I mean, we have sort of this judgment of what is happening to us, and we feel like a victim sometimes. But what I hear you saying is you have, sounds like you're really, really masterful at embracing whatever the challenge is, because that's where the medicine is. And that's going, if you trust the process, that's going to lead you to being more in alignment with whatever you're longing for and your soul's calling, and all of the things kind of organically unfold, like the food and your son's school. And you know what I mean? And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful sharing that you just did. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate you listening. And I think also it's important to say that it doesn't come easily. And that
Oh,
this process that I've just described was also another level of healing and purging and
yes.
alchemizing and transmuting stuff that, from that, again, like, based on the circumstance that is showing up in my now life, it's like has nothing to do with my now self and everything to do with the charge or um the drudging up of the 10-year-old me. So, you know,
Mm.
that was also, that's been really hard too, because it was like, oh gosh, I didn't realize there was more to do. um,
There always is. It's just how it is. It's kind of
there's
like a
more.
never-ending thing. But I love the framework of, like, not looking at something as good or bad. I think that's a beautiful framework for people because we tend to do that. We're like, oh, this, like, people would look at your situation where you're like, oh, my landlord is selling. I have to find a new place. where I live is very hard to get. I mean, I know, we both know how hard it is here. And I'm in this that could be like people could make that doom and gloom and turn that into a disaster and turn that into a lot of negativity and a lot of like things that are not going my way. And like you said, Heather, the victim and all that. And it's not that you turned it around and said it was really positive. It's not that you did that either and like played like the spiritual bypassing. It was like, oh, it's gonna be great, it'll work out. Like you just kind of like did your own like, okay, divine wisdom and guidance and like seeing how it flowed and trusted that there's a higher power and source that's going to lead you to what's right for you and your next right steps, right? And I think that's really beautiful. And yeah, and I think it is good in a lot of ways, but then it also is maybe there are some things that you maybe miss about being here, right? So it can be both as well. Like it can be, we can experience both in the same sentence. Like, yeah, like I can do that with my own story, right? Like, yeah, well, my health crisis, like that sucked so much. Like it's good, it's bad in that sense, is because it was so hard. But the growth that's come from that has been so beautiful, right? So it can be both of those things at the same time, right? As how what I came to my mind. So yeah.
Yeah. So when I hear you say that, I think about how we're all being faced with duality, and that duality is not about choosing one or aligning with one or the other, but that
Yeah.
the real growth, and I think what we're being asked to do in this period of time, and I don't know that we've experienced this before as humans, but is to step outside of duality and
Hmm.
accept it for what it is and exist outside of it, right? So I feel like that sailing metaphor that I talked about before is kind of the work of like, you're a sailor. You can't control the water, but you have to sail it. So yeah, so like that's what go with the flow means, right? But if you're holding on too tightly, you miss the moment where you're in the moment. So, so it is a dance, but we don't get here easily. And, I think that's to your point, Vanessa, of like, you have to have both. And there's value in both. Just like we talk about experiencing darkness in the winter season, like, and using
Mhm.
that in a transmuting, alchemizing way, there's value in that. But then you can't over obsess about that because the pendulum will swing back to summer and you need to be in summer as well. So it's like understanding how to sail all of it, and also like recognizing when you can't and when you crash and burn, right? So saying I'm sorry and repairing, and also noticing that like nobody's perfect. And I think for me as a practitioner too, like I've always struggled with social media. We know that. Like I know I have to be on it, but it doesn't feel right for me. But there's certain people I've met from it, and I get it. I like whatever it is, what it is. But I feel like there's an over exaggeration on like experts and being the one who knows, and that
Hmm.
feels like the like not the correct direction of what this work really means. That it's really about it's an inner standing thing, not an understanding thing, right? So when you're always like reaching outside of yourself and sourcing and like giving your power away because you need that like certainty, you're kind of missing the point. And I think too, again, being outside of the ups and downs is a very important strategy and skill in life now, because it's moving really fast and you can be swept up by other people's voices or an agenda that's outside of what's divine for you very easily and very quickly. And then it gets harder to recalibrate, right? Your muscles of recalibrating and coming back to homeostasis aren't intact because you're searching, and then you're kind of feeding off the adrenaline and the dopamine and all of that. So it's really like it's nuanced, but it's super special, and I just don't think it can be done without cultivating faith.
How do
Hmm.
you, what are the practices, if it's okay to ask you, Robin, like, excuse me, day to day that you utilize to center yourself, to redirect yourself to your faith and to trusting and self-soothe and all that goodness so you can, right, be able to be with whatever is and keep out of the judging and all of the other things happening outside of you? What do you do?
So excellent question. I think I don't have a prescription, but I try to get outside as much as possible. And if I feel like I'm too in my head, I try to go outside. Even if I don't feel like moving my body, I'll just sit on my stoop at that like sunniest time of day with a cup of tea and just, you know, get some light on me just to shift things. I do really like water. So now that I have the brook in the backyard, I'll walk down to the brook and just kind of look at the water. I like to take a shower every day. I feel like water is important.
Hmm.
Um, One of the most special things is that I tend to naturally wake up at a certain time every day. I don't really know what time that is because I don't have a clock in my room, but like I keep the alarm like on the other side in case I need it. But so it feels like I've gotten into a really beautiful practice of like when that happens, starting to pray and meditate. And even if I stay in my bed, I don't feel like I have to get up and like position my body, but I just use that time to get thankful and ask for miracles and see how I can be of service in the day. And also recognize when my signals are clogged because it's not perfect. I've been practicing yoga for over 20 years and I've been a yoga teacher for almost 15 years. So I do always try to move my body. And I just feel like for me, it's about a personal practice of taking a long walk or 10 minutes of yoga here or there. My life is a little bit busy at this phase. You know, I'm not in a an age where I can take like 2 or 3 hours to just do what I need to do. Like, so sometimes it's like, I have 10 minutes. How do I want to use this time? I'm going to deep breathe while I change the laundry. I'm going to sing. I like to sing. I like to sing and dance. I try to just like do things that bring me joy and have fun. And sometimes if there was a hidden camera in my house, like I would be like probably singing songs and like jumping up and down or like moving my body and just like taking 5 or 10 minutes to like da 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 and then get back to work. I love to talk to people. I'm very blessed that I have some really good friends from, you know, childhood all the way through. And so I do talk on the phone a lot. And I just, you know, even I just feel really lucky that I have a few really great people in my life who I can just say like a couple things to and then like move on. But I spend a lot of time with myself. And I think that that's part of it is like really befriending who I am and recognizing when it's annoying to be with me. I'm uncomfortable being here, or I love being in my body today. And I think just practicing awareness and observation would be something that I would say I do a lot of. I'm not perfect by any means. And
Nobody is.
having just moved too, you know, there's, you know, a lot of people I need to meet. And I've been doing a lot of my work remotely because I always had a hybrid model, but a lot of my base in New York is not here anymore, you know, so I do have to like meet new people and find practitioners and like healers that I want to work with, but also like I want to support me as like a client, but also that people that I can get to know in a workspace. And then, you know, families and moms, you know, being a mom and just how do I integrate into the community. So I think also moving slowly is really important.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
just
there's so
heard
much.
so beautiful. Sorry, Vanessa, I know you want to talk. It's just a beautiful menu of all the different ways you nourish yourself, and you're always
Yeah.
coming back to self and self-attuning, which is what I think is the most important thing, especially for women.
Hmm. And it's always that delicate balance. I was going to say, it's like I hear you say, like, oh, it's community and it's connection and it's support, but it's also I can be by myself and be okay and be good with that. And I, you know, like I think that balance is really key. You know, like if you need to be okay with being by yourself and being having fun with yourself too and loving yourself. I think that's really important. I love movement and dance and singing too. So I would have the same thing. Like I literally that's how I clean. Like I'll put on music really loud and I dance and I sing. And like I did that the other like, oh, it was when I was putting up the Christmas decorations back in December. And my husband came home and the music was like so loud. And I was like putting the Christmas decoration up. He's like, what's going on in here? Like that's just how I am. Like, you know, and I love that. And there's a lot to that, like that kind of like freedom of kind of being spontaneous with movement and being spontaneous with flow with music for me that is very nurturing, right? And like singing and being silly. Like I'm the kind of person that you drive up next to in the car, right? And then you look at them and they're like, "Oh, what she's having fun in the car." And I'm like, "Yep, that's me." Like I like that, you know? So I relate to that a big time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think just kind of honoring that like I can be very serious and also very silly.
Right, because we can be both. It's like that yes and conversation we were having before, right? We can be in community and connection, but we can also be in stillness and alone. And both are good and both are maybe not good or bad, but both are nourishing to us, is a way to say it, right?
Yeah, and again, duality, right? One isn't
Yeah.
good or bad. It's just being outside of it and recognizing where you are and like
Hmm.
knowing that every state is a temporary state and that it's just about moving through it, not judging it or holding on to it and like analyzing it.
Yeah, I love that every state is a temporary state. I think we don't, so a lot of times people with, like, I'm sure you see this in clients with chronic illness or things that they're going through that's a tough one, right? Like that they think the season won't pass or this is how it's always going to be, right? I like that every state is temporary and things do shift, right? So that's a really, really good one. And I was also thinking about your journey and I wrote this down, like, obvious, I think too, your capacity for handling difficult situations is way more available when you're living the lifestyle that you choose to live. So someone who experienced what you experienced with the move situation, say go to that, their capacity might just be, if their capacity or their vultures was much lower because their lifestyle is not as in rhythm or in tune, right? That challenge might bring them a greater more challenge, I guess, I guess is the word to say, or just might be more difficult for them as somebody who can handle that with more grace because of the lifestyle that they're living. I would see that, for sure.
Yeah, or treat the intensity of the situation as definite or fixed and try to hold on to
Yes.
that
That's a
instead of
good way to
like,
say it.
all right, well, here we are. This could go many different ways. How do we move through it? Knowing that we'll
Yeah.
get through it, but in a way, you have to kind of be where you are here and
Yeah.
think about it. It's more like, so how is this going to go? Right? Like wonder over worry, as opposed to, I don't know what's
Hmm.
happening. Like, what if, da, 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 that kind of thing. So staying curious
Yes.
and staying in wonder. Again, I've had to learn all of this. So, like, just if we were talking right now to my 20-year-old self, this would be a very different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that too. Wonder over worry. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to use that one. I do. I love that one because we get into the what if, what if, what if. And instead of changing into what if, it's just like, oh, it could go this way or it could go that way. And the energy behind that feels different to me, right? Than what if versus, or it could be this way or it could be that way, or like this wondering more, right?
I think part of understanding our multidimensional aspects or like what the quantum field is that you have the potential in human form to step into the field of all that is. And
Yeah.
that is not an overwhelming place. That's where miracles are. So if you could just free yourself up to experience that, that's like that's your work during something stressful or hard, which makes no sense to somebody who's feeling overwhelmed, chaotic, is sick, is tired, or whatever. And look, I always say there's nothing worse than somebody going through a hard time and they're like, you're gonna be okay. It's like a mismatch to so you gotta like dial in. You need people who can dial into where you are and kind of take you to where you want to be, but that you're cloaked in the worry or the three-dimensional aspects, the linear perspective of
Mm.
I didn't do it right. That's why I'm in this, like what life, the duality in the realm of duality.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah. So where do we go here from here now, girls? Is the question. Where do we go next? How do we cultivate that, maybe? How do we cultivate that, would you say? Like, how would you coach a client to maybe cultivate that? Because I know you work with a lot, like, or we can go with tell us about your work. Which one, where would you like to go?
I could do both. Let's do
Okay, let's do
both.
both. Let's go with both. I love it.
Now, I love that question. How would you coach a client? Because I have my own personal stress around, I don't want to pretend I'm better than somebody. I don't know better than you. But there
Yeah.
is sort of something I've had to realize about myself in terms of like being able to intuitively step into somebody else's field and take you where you say you want to go. And I guess, I just have to accept that that is what I do. And,
Has that been a struggle to accept?
I do struggle with it because I don't want to. I don't do this work because I know better than you. I do it
I
because
love that.
I want to sit beside you and So for me personally, like, how do I say what I do? How do I like tell the world? How do I like, that's something I really struggle with.
Mm.
So if I can just kind of gently and quietly, I guess maybe people come through resonance anyway, but if, I feel like I need to create a space of safety first for myself and the person. And then, there's always like what they think they want to work through, and then what really is
Yeah.
what we work through. And people
Yep.
come for different reasons, and they leave just a more expanded version of themselves. And however I get them there, I do toggle through kind of the pillars or guiding lights that I think, that I've kind of come up with a framework, which is, your movement life, your thought life, your emotions life, and your light life. And I say, it's through the wisdom of your nervous system, your circadian, and your cellular health that we get there. That's kind of like how I describe it. Even if you don't know what that means, it is what it is. I mean, it is the work, right? So your divinity is in your cells and your emotions. Your DNA is coded from God. So your metabolic and mitochondrial health does need to be optimized, and probably isn't if you're in some sort of chronic emotional state, right? So it's a little bit of a dance of like, how do I've got a series of questions I like to ask people, but how do I really listen to what you're saying and what you're going through and why you feel the way you feel, in order to move you through to where you need to be next. And also to not pretend that I know what that is better than you. And I think where, for me personally, in terms of health care, the medical system is what it is, and there's value there, and it's the people and the hearts of the people who work in the system that help you, heal you, and guide you. Always somebody's heart. It's always how somebody cared for you that heals you. Always. It's not the thing. It's the thing you can't see. And that's what I think people need to recognize too. So, don't take for granted it's not coincidence, it's miracle, right? But it's also quantum and biological in that, every person you meet can leave an imprint on you and shift and impact your energetic signature. And if you can start to observe and recognize that and cultivate gratitude through that, then you're noticing, as opposed to turning away, right? You're turning toward the path. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important to say too that we are living through a time, and I've been through this too, where it's like there's the reality or the movie as it's playing out in front of you, where like there's an interpretation of your life that other people have of you, and you might be giving your power away to that. But is it true? And if you are giving your power away to it, then it could become true. So we have to really protect our boundaries and our field by knowing what our emotional states are and who we are. And stillness is an important practice there for that, because if we're weak in that sense, and we have a dimmed light or a low charge, we might give our power away to another person's perspective of who we are and what our life should be. And that's a seed of dis-ease also. So if you're going through something where, you don't feel like people know you and that you're being misrepresented or like misunderstood, you can't fix them. You can't explain your way through it. You have to, things shift and sort in the field, right? So you have to go into that quantum field and shift it at the soul level, at the spirit level, at the biological, at the cellular vibration and frequency level, in order for the projection to shift in your world. And I think because of where things are going with transhumanism and biohacking, and where using social media and technology, even like chat GPT, like we are not, we have to still remember that if anything we do, whether we think it's good or bad, is a practice of giving out, outsourcing our light, or giving our light over to something or someone else for it to drain, we're missing the point. So I feel like it's important to say that, because I think too, like, especially with biohacking or all these recommendations that we're constantly being heard, bombarded with, no one knows better than you. And sometimes, and I've been through this too, because I had a disease, you do have to be with your disease. You can't just expect that somebody else is going to take it out of you. And
Nobody can fix you but you.
I'm sorry, what's that, Vanessa?
Nobody can fix you but you. And that's the hard thing that people don't want to hear, I think. And everything you're saying is so great, but yeah, I just keep going. I just,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, just, and again, like, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, but it is, right? So you came into this fixed state, but it can be temporary and it doesn't have to be fixed. And I think it's the same thing. So when we work on it, like biologically, or, from the cellular level or the daily practice, and like sort of like more of a medical lens, but just sort of like, using circadian practices and the wisdom of the nervous system and understanding through food, diet, health, all that stuff. But that really, like, it's a you and you thing. And, if that you can get yourself through it and to the other side of something. And when that did happen for me, I was like, I don't know, I just had like a moment like on my knees of like, I did it. How did I get here though? And it just was like this,
Mm.
it was the inner work that got me there.
Mm. Yeah, so beautiful. Like it's that surrender and that trust too is so big. But yeah, I love that you're the support and not the guru, not the expert. I love that you're bringing that lens in. And I think that's so important because that is what's projected on social media is that I know better than you and I know better than what you're saying or what you're experiencing in your body, right? And you should do this and it's very should based and you have to do this. And like that is very fear-based. Heather and I talk a lot about that, and it's not something that we feel aligned with. It's not how we come at things typically, or we try not to bring any of that in. And I feel like if you're following somebody on Instagram, or I just actually had a client who experienced this actually, and we had a conversation about it, and it jacks up your nervous system, makes you feel more uneaseful in your body or more fear-based or like urgent, I have to do this, I must, right? That's a sign that that's not probably the correct avenue for you to go down. And, you need just support to bring you back to your own innate wisdom and your own inner guidance. And like outsourcing is probably not going to be the thing that's going to be the healing. It's going to be the inner work, like that you just mentioned. So I love that you're bringing all that because you are your best guru, really, when it comes down to it.
It's like food, you can buy your food or you can make your food, right? One like nourishes you, and
Yep.
one, the body, and one nourishes the soul. And I think, you know, you can ask for help or you can do something outside of you, but if like don't be tricked into giving your power away. That's all. I
Right.
think that there are so many things you can do on your own that are super important, but that doesn't mean like sometimes you're having a hard time and you need people to help you through. And I just think that the mind doesn't work in isolation. The body doesn't work in isolation. You need everything to be aligned. We got to put the soul back in the body. You need to understand the wisdom of the fact that you are multidimensional and that your soul is here to learn lessons and to overcome things. And that life it's a trick. It can be, experiences can be hard and difficult and be good. And
Yeah.
and it can, I don't know, life can be short, like life can be long, life can be lived and felt and experienced and very short. And it can be very long and you can be disconnected from it as well. So again, like what is time? Who do you want to be in the world, and how do you source that? What do you value? Who are you? And when things are moving really quickly around you, it's really easy to get lost. And I think remembering that, like, as adults, whether you're a parent or not too, like there's always another generation that's coming along. And if we can really look to the people that came before us, I think that's really important. And like the lineage of our ancestors and also the impact of that on our DNA and the wisdom of the nervous system, because we might just be at a really taxed, overloaded place right now. And what we are looking at in terms of like what might be neurodivergence or understanding trauma. There's so many buzzwords, but I think it's just simpler than that. I think it's just more that like we are connected to everything that came before us, to this right now moment, and everything that is meant to come after us. And if we can stay aligned with that, then we'll be connected. But, separation is where you lose yourself, right? So, a lot of it is what we don't see, but there's so much going on. And again, if you can bring it to the field, then you can tap into the miracles and the wisdom. There is nothing new under the sun. And, we are not special in that way. We are unique in that we have our own energetic signature that we are meant to bring forward so that we can be a part of this greater piece of whatever life is. But we're not better than it. And we're not separate from it. So I feel like that distinction is important too. And so for those of us who work and support others on their journey, whatever that is, especially when the work is a little more vague, which maybe I'm using that word and it's not, like I know for, it's vague in how I describe it. But if you want to understand who you are, then we can look at that and you will see shifts in your physiological health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and you'll understand that the marrying of your mind, body, and soul is where you will be able to tap into the toolkit that you need. And it's in you, it's in your heart, it's inside of you. And it is so freaking hard, but it's really it's like if you want to go there, life will have much more meaning.
Yeah, it sounds rather mysterious. It can sound esoteric, and you say do the work, right? And so I think for those who haven't stepped into their own personal container, that's the crucible of their life, it can be like, where do I start? So I just like to make it simple for people, and it's all the stuff you're talking about. It's like whatever portal you want. Do you want homeopathy, flower essences? Do you want? I mean, we resonate with certain modalities and practices and people, so.
Right.
It's about I'm choosing, not you need to fix me. This is the shift because we've been so conditioned to look outward for something to take away our pain, but the pain is the medicine, and the pain is what is telling us we're not in alignment with our soul, with our whatever our signature is that you're mentioning. And so like I work a lot with women, and so one of the easiest ways that I've found to get into their own experience is just to slow down. It sounds so ridiculous when I say it, but we're going a million miles a minute attending to so many things and people and doing all this stuff that just having space to not have to perform or do anything can be such a big way to start. And then all the stuff comes up because there's so much being pushed down all the time and trying to contain it. So when you talk earlier, Robin, about being with the chaos, like to me, that's finding a way to be so attuned to your inner tissue self, notice the sensations in your body, slow down, take a moment to just even look inward, which I know people are like, what am I looking for? Just notice what happens when you focus inward. And then you're making more space literally in yourself by discharging whatever's pent up so that you have more capacity to be with the chaos, because that's really what people that want to avoid pain, right? And it's too overwhelming, and then I start to fall apart and I can't handle everything. So how to create more space is by slowing down and taking a moment. And people just fight against that so much because why? Like you said earlier, the emotions are so like jammed up inside. There is no space. So all the stuff you're saying is just like, there's so much wisdom and beauty in what you're saying. And it's like we all have different ways of kind of looking at it, right, Vanessa? And you just capture all of it so elegantly. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. And I appreciate talking about it too, because there's also, then there's real life and, homework and dinner and like the, like things that bring you back to earth so hard.
Yeah, it's hard to pivot from the depth of your being to like, okay, now I have to clean the toilets. Like, what the hell, How do we do all that?
Yeah, but that's it. That is it, right? Because it can be as simple or complex, but in a way it's like both are the same, because if you can presence yourself, then you're moving truthfully through your experience, whatever it is. Some days are going to be super impactful, and it'll be like 3 years of your life happened in 2 minutes. And sometimes you're in a phase of
Mhm.
life where it feels like you've been going through something for like it's so heavy and so dark and so deep, and it's like taken so much of you and out of you, and that's part of it too, so again, is it good or is it bad? Like even this morning, like this is, off topic, but maybe on topic too. It's like my son looks at my head. He's like, Mom, you're getting gray hairs. And I'm like, that's right. It's happening. And looking at pictures of myself from like a few years ago, and we lost a family member recently, so we're getting ready for, like whatever funeral and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I have aged.
Mhm.
But
But
I have
But
to look
that's
at it.
normal. It's a normal part of living and aging. Like I think we too, as women, I mean, this is such a good topic, and I like this one. It's like, we want to get rid of any wrinkle and dye the hair and do all the things and like look, anti-age and look like we used to. Like, okay, I understand that. I understand the why behind all that, but I don't know. Like to me, it's like it's just normal to age. Like it's okay. Like, can we accept that? Can we honor that? Can we love that part of ourselves like that? I've had gray hair since my 30s. Like I went gray early like my father. And that's just how it is. And actually my mom just cut my hair and she's like noticing all the gray. She's like, I wish you would dye it. I'm like, I'm just not going to do that. Like it doesn't align with my values anymore. Like it just won't happen. Like, like that's just not for me. Like I don't feel the need to cover that up. And I feel like this is okay and it's acceptable and it's fine that I have gray hair. Like there's nothing to hide about it. Like, like, and honestly, there's not a part of me that's embarrassed about it at this point in my life. Like I don't feel that, but it's just interesting how other people perceive it. And is that something I'm pushing out? Like who knows? Like I don't know, but like it's just interesting. Like I just think that to love and accept ourselves and accept the aging process is also part of the work as well. Like it's okay, you know?
Yeah. And I think in the galactical context, we're still like a speck in the whole grand scheme of things.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, again, I think it's perspective. And I have this little joke with myself that of like, because my come in and they stick up like they're completely different textures. So these antenna. Then I'm just like, like tuning in,
Yeah, those are your antenna.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
getting more, wisdom and more access to whatever the frequencies are that I need. And they're coming by way of gray hairs. Let's put it.
Yeah, totally. I love it. And I love what Heather said before about the portals, because I really do think they are all portals. Like all of these things that we teach and preach are portals, like getting more in sunlight, getting in touch with nature, being in the ground, putting your feet in the earth, grounding, getting dark at night, like being in rhythm, whether we use like energetic medicines and things like that. I do feel like they are all portals to like this greater awareness that they bring you to, about yourself and
Yeah.
greater understanding. Yeah.
Anything that is like God expressing in its neutral, natural state is an opportunity for you, or a portal, like
Hmm.
you say.
Yeah.
And, we notice it or we don't, but it's there expressing and shining its light for us. So it's information in that regard. And,
Mhm.
this nuanced difference between, where do you get your information and can you neutralize yourself enough to tune into
Yeah.
receiving the information. And I think that's where the work of understanding signal and noise is really important. Um,
Mm.
and how, like you said, Heather, like quieting yourself. And from a postural standpoint, your neutral spine naturally aligns, right? The crown of your head with the sun, the soles of your feet, soul with the earth. And it's nothing you have to do. That's the point. So the efforting is where you have to explore, where am I under or over efforting? Because in the neutrality is where you have the opportunity to dial into the clear signal, and that's the attunement. So yeah, these practices and circadian biology and quantum biology has supreme value for that reason, because it's giving people a template and a framework and an opportunity to step into alignment. You won't hear the signal or be aware of the signal if you're doing it from a reaching outside of self standpoint.
Yep.
But like with church, the Bible, spirituality, whatever you call it, sometimes you just have to go. And it's kind of getting into the flow of going, and then you either tap into it or not. And, same thing with exercise, same thing with diet, right? It's sometimes you just have to, you need somebody to tell you, buy the salad, not the Twizzlers.
Yeah.
And then you're on your way. But it's nuanced. It's nuanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love all that. That makes so much sense to me. It's like if we're doing it just out of kind of like this like robot, like I have to, or outside of self, like it's not going to be it's not as authentic, right? And then as we eventually keep doing it, right? Maybe somebody told us to do it. Maybe someone told us to watch the sunrise and to wear blue blockers. And eventually, as we keep doing those things, eventually it becomes more aligned and authentic and more part of who we are. And then again, it's like that portal, like that brings us more back to like that greater awareness. So I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's your feedback loop, right? Is it
Yeah.
going to be the external validation?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
can you kind of intrinsically align with your intuition and divinity and that inner knowing, like really cultivating the resonance of your inner knowing is signal. And you really can't get healthy or well until you camp out in neutrality. You don't shift from a diseased state to a healthy state. You go through a process of like undiseasing to neutrality. And then understanding what that is, and like how all of the systems in your body need time to downshift, like kind of like turn, like when you power something down, you hear
Yep.
the mechanism stop and then like shut down and then slowly go away. And feel like if I could speak to this a minute, a lot of people talk about birth and coming through the canal, and it's a process, right? You don't just like come out. It's like it takes time. The body, the woman carrying the baby has to go through the process, and there are stages. And our end of life is the same if we're so lucky, and that there's so much beauty in that, in sort of how there's there's a powering down of the body as something separate from our multidimensional selves, so something separate from God, right? And the soul is leaving and going to source and coming back into the body, and then leaving and then coming back, and then leaving and staying for longer, and then eventually it's all gone. And then there's a final breath, but you don't just go from breathing to not breathing. Like there's a whole phase, there are phases and stages of all of that. And I think that's important for us to remember, that nothing is meant to be quick, that it's, again, the journey, not the destination, right? So if you can participate in the process of what is going on for you and what you're going through, then that's how you align with what you want. Because you need to get yourself out of where you are and experience that. And then you can move yourself to where you want to go.
Yeah, embrace the process, because that's just life. Life is one big process and experience that we have. And how are we able to open to that versus restrict and, get constricted inside?
Yeah.
And then we can't feel ourselves. We can't receive information because we're just in a ball, right? And so we have to have more and more extreme coping strategies to deal with the discomfort of being rigid. So I just love how you describe that. It's just absolutely right. And trusting that we're going to be okay. Because like you've mentioned, there's so much static out there and so much fear mongering and oh my God, and this and that. And it's like just popping on social media. Now you're just like, ugh. So it's just a constant state of being the guardians of our own nervous system.
Yes. And every time you choose to check your phone over going for a walk, again, like these are the little things. There's a lot in our way right now. But sometimes when it's like that, or feels like there's a lot of contrast, you have the most opportunity to dial into what you want. So
yeah. And Heather, like Heather always, says, and I love that she says this, it's like, and I use this a lot now with my family and and clients, like, well, you're choosing that. Like, it's a choice. Do I want to go walk by myself without the phone, or do I want to go check my phone? And I think if people, when you take those of course, everybody knows social media can take up a lot of space and a lot of time and energy from us, right? It's kind of I see an energy zapper, an energy stealer, and yet I'm on it because I'm promoting myself and my business, right? Because it's that duality again that you were talking about before, right? Like it's this yes and, right? Like, so I'm like very good at like I go on, I put my stuff, and then I'm done. Like I don't have to go check the notifications or see anything. Like I just put my stuff out there and then I'm done with it, right? Like I've actually one of the practices that I've been doing this year is really setting boundaries around that. And that's been really important and helpful because I'm not a doom scroller kind of person. That's not me, but like I can be like making more content and doing more, like, like more and more and more and more and more. Like I can be in that mode. And that's like probably not serving me is what I had to realize. And like, okay, if I put some boundaries around that, that's probably better, right? So anyway, I've been doing that, but then that frees more space. So if we make those conscious efforts and choices to disengage and be in nature or be, outside of that. And then, we can have more space and stillness for what's going to else can come into our field.
Yeah. And how you measure success, right? Because
Yeah.
we've got to remember that delayed gratification is part of it. And so if we're always choosing instant, it's there's other systems being activated. And it's again a jumping out of the body, and it's a not incorporating soul and multidimensionality and divinity and your greater purpose and being of service in a way that's supporting the whole, not separating yourself out of it and creating some kind of hierarchical status to assuage your ego. to and
Yeah.
it's hard seeing children. It's not an easy time to, we have, when you have a lot, right, there's a bigger responsibility with in terms of how you understand it, how you use it, and how you give it over. So it's true. I agree with you. And I unplug the internet at night and I get the
Hmm.
eye rolls,
Good.
Mom, no one
Oh.
does this. And I'm just like, but I do. And we sleep really, really well. And
And
You'll
we need a
thank me
break
in
to clean
20
out the
years.
static,
yeah. And it's funny, like, and life is funny. And, so again, like, what a blessing, this house, being able to buy a house and, so much, what a year. And, oh, new construction. I didn't like, so like I'm in my living room and there's like 6 hi-hats above my head. And, my son's going flip and I'm going flip and I've got lamps in every room. And I'm just like, oh gosh, I forgot about modern lighting. And I'm like, oh, I can't see in my own, like these lights. So there's so much around like, having a new construction and a modern house to live in and sort of remembering like, oh gosh, I miss all the old gruddy houses I lived in that like I had to just put lamps up and like use my incandescent lighting. So
Yeah.
really funny. And one more thing I wanted to share too is like just again in terms of gauging progress or how well you're doing. This was like my mom, grandma buying strawberries and for us or whatever, and my son's like, Mom, it's the middle of January. Who eats strawberries in January? And I'm like, oh, he's getting it.
Yeah, exactly. It makes
Nice.
sense, right? Like he's
I'm
like
like,
that. He's
we
putting
do
that together.
because grandma bought them for us and we're, you know, you know.
Yeah.
So again, like
Yep.
the balance, right? Of
Mhm.
like, it can be like not perfect and wrong or right or not. And who cares? Because if, how you bring your presence to a circumstance is the most important thing.
Yeah, choosing the love of the nourishment from your mom, his grandmother, the strawberries to go with that instead of like, oh my God, I can't eat those. It's out of season.
Yeah.
Yep. That's like I was at my mom's house yesterday and she's like, I got some extra zucchinis for you. And I'm like, these are not seasonal. These are not local, right? But I'm like, sure, mom. Thank you so much. It's very sweet of you. I will put them in my eggs. I had them in eggs this morning. I loved them. It was fine. It was like, there's again, that rigidity and that dogma is never going to serve anybody, especially in any way, but like, especially on a healing journey. You really need to let that go and not be like, there's that rigidity in that body is going to keep you stuck, in that situation already. So I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But also having the awareness, like, oh, this doesn't grow here, but it's okay. It's a beautiful gift from my grandmother, and I'm going to enjoy that with my mom. And like, I
Yeah.
love that.
And also like he gets it.
Yeah. Yeah,
He
exactly.
knows like, but and I also think like it's a little bit in life too of like, so everything. so what? Like, now what? Like,
Yeah.
you still have to live in the moment and not make everybody feel like an idiot for not knowing what you know. And I
Yep.
think that, there's a way I want to live my life. There are values I want to align with. And it's different than 10 years ago, and it might be different 10 years from now. And, there's other people in our lives, whether we are married or have children or whatever, different souls, different personalities, different perspectives. And like, it's all going to be different, like someone sees through blue, someone sees through green lenses, pink lenses, red lenses. Like, we have to get out of our own way, because even though the day-to-day choices really, really matter, zooming out matters just as much. And that's why it's like, you have to remember that we're here planted on earth, but we're part of something much, much bigger than
Yeah.
we think we should be doing.
Yes, 100%. I love that. So good. So good. Well, this has been amazing. I really enjoyed this time in this conversation, Robin, as expected and as always. But yeah. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with? I did take a peek at your new website. I know you just, well, not new, but you updated it. It looks really beautiful.
Oh,
Would
thank
love,
you.
I
I
loved
appreciate
it.
that.
Yeah. And
So hard to describe. You have to create this, and that's not my wheelhouse. So it's like,
yeah.
I have to tell people what I do. How do I do that?
So cute. Yeah.
So thank you. Yes, and you can definitely check it out. My business name is My Way Om, O-M. So mywayom.com, and I handle everything. Again, like, I value automation, but until I can't anymore, if you just email me, it will be me. I will be the one that emails you back. And I always like to form that connection with people and hear how clients are doing and have those touch points. So you can reach me at Robyn, ROBYN, at mywayom.com. And yeah, check it out. I'd love to hear how you're doing, and being here today with both of you has been so wonderful. I just love you both so much. So
Yeah,
I appreciate
same.
your
Yeah.
time and
Yeah.
this time very much.
Love you too, Robin. Thank you
Yeah,
so
we love you
much.
too. Thank you so much for coming on again. We'll have to have you on again. We'll just keep doing it.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. We'll see you soon then.